Hi there, Russ again with another episode of Daisy Lever Gun Fun. I had a request from Shane Bruce of Restomon Daisy about explaining more on how I built this Tommy gun. Well, the Tommy gun that you see here is actually built from one of these little buck rifles. This is how it started. Everything about that Tommy gun still operates the same as one of these buck rifles. Loads the same, the sights are the same. It's just modified on the outside. So I'm going to go through step by step and show each one of the modifications we made. If you look at the front of the gun, you'll see there's a collar on here. The original sight is still here. The original loading gate is still here. But I've put a collar on the front to simulate a rise compensator. I have a piece of tubing on here and a coupler over the front of the tubing. There are 3 slots on the top. These act as the compensator pressure reliefs. On a real firearm that has fast multiple shots like this, if you were to keep firing, the muzzle would have a tendency to rise. With these slots in here, it kind of has an action reaction so that when the gases come up, it helps keep the front of the muzzle down. Doesn't mean anything for a little BB gun, but it looks cool, so I put that on there also. Coming back the gun a little further, you're going to see that we have a pistol grip on the front. Originally, I attached that pistol grip with a clamping device on the barrel. Didn't like that so much, so I revised it to have this plank, and the pistol grip is held securely there. The plank is tapped and screwed into the area on the bottom of the gun, which would be down here. There's not a lot of mechanism inside below this point, and so there's some room to put screws and so forth up through the bottom. Now if you look, you also have this drum magazine. On the front, it looks similar to what you might find on the real firearm. It does have bands here, and it has the little winder. If this was a real 50 round drum, this winder would be important. It's just here for effect now. To be able to cock the gun effectively, this drum would be in the way of the cocking device, which is the pistol grip lever here. So it opens. There is 2 little pieces of metal here, which are actually the heads of some roofing nails. This is an embedded magnet that holds it together. Once it's like that, you're free to be able to cock the gun, and it's ready to fire. The drum magazine halves are actually held on to these side plates, one on either side of the gun, that act as a gusset. And I'll explain that when we get to the back end. These side plates also make the profile of the gun, which is much different from what you're going to see on the 105. The through bolts, if you'll notice, are not original Daisies. I used post bolts in here, and I used an acorn nut for the side over here. In the front, these 2 little screws, one on either side, hold the front of the gusset in place. They have been drilled and tapped. These are actually little machine screws. Whenever you look at this, it's easy to see where the buck stopped and the stock attachment continued from. That's why the gun looks so much longer on top. The original buck stops right here with the through bolt. That's represented here. It stops, and this is the through bolt. This stock assembly is not two pieces. The reason I built it this way is for strength and to make it more comfortable whenever you're assembling. What I used is this pattern on a solid piece of wood to be able to build that stock. It fits right in here, and if you look at the overlay, that's the profile of the stock. Now, something I did that not necessary to do, but I wanted to add a little bit of shape and some profile to this. I thickened the pistol grip here. I don't know if you can see this, but this there's a little ridge here. The original application of the pistol grip here has been thickened here. Also, it's a little thicker beyond where the stock goes into the gun up here on each side. So this is what I consider half of the his and hers Tommy guns. The reason I say that is I have another version of it right here. This one is a little more squared off, a little more chiseled look, and I consider that to be a little more masculine. It's similar in many ways, but if you look at the front, there are no slots cut in, so this is really more of a flash suppressor attachment. Again, you're not going to get a lot of muzzle flash from a BB gun, but, well, there you are. And whenever I put these on the front, we're able to reuse the original sight and the original loading gate. Instead of having a pistol grip in the front, this version has a forearm stock. The forearm stock in this particular case was not made out of one piece of wood. I have a saddle in the front and a saddle in the back, and because of the profile of this, we have two separate size radius that were cut into those saddles. I applied pieces of wood on three sides, and because it is something that is not important to be able to be disassembled if you're doing maintenance on the gun, I attached it with very strong adhesive to the front of the gun, and it's strong. It's been years now since I made these, and it doesn't come off. Coming back a little bit, you'll see a hinge here. Originally, what I did was make this so that if you were going to cock the gun, you could swing this out of the way, like we did on the drum magazine. This represents a stick magazine. I think I may change that a little bit though, because I have enough room in here to hollow that out to be able to cock the gun and force it all the way up. It has a similar pistol grip back here, the same side plates that I made, and these are made out of thin wood, by the way. Everything painted black represents what would be metal on a gun. Everything painted in the brown, the leather brown, represents what I would expect to be a wooden area on the gun. So this is just about the same. It has the same template for the stock. Let me hold that closed. And to make it a little more personalized, I put my little discs on here with my initial. These are actually cufflinks from days gone by that I had, and I attached them onto the stock. To give it a little more flavor on the back end here, instead of trying to put a butt plate on it or a cushion, what I've done is just paint black for the last, 3/4 of an inch or less back here. There's one other thing I did with this. Knowing that this piece was cut out of one chunk of wood. Anything that goes on inside of or in between these is going to be hidden by the side plates or the gussets. This one, I took a little bolt from another BB gun. I rigged it up inside with a hollow spot and a spring, and I use it as a charging lever. It doesn't really do anything, but if you're going to go for coolness, you may as well go all the way. So these are my his and hers guns. This one I made for myself. This one, which has a little more profile, I made for my wife. I can still see in my head the imagined game of playing Chicago in the Roaring '20s. This one belongs to Gal Capone, and this one belongs to Elliot Russ. Gal Capone out there in the backyard terrorizing the neighborhood, and Elliot Russ bringing those tin can minions to justice. Speaking of imagination, wouldn't it be cool if you could take a wide frame Daisy, you know, the model 99, 96, 98, 95, and create something that looked like an old, maybe World War I military carbine? Would it even be possible? You know, Daisy doesn't have one of those. Those wide frame Daisies all have long barrels. They all have those heavy wooden stocks. What if one of those could have the barrel shortened to carbine length? Maybe a military type muzzle cooler on it, short stock, side of the receiver mounted spotting scope, open sights. That would really be cool. I don't think that's easily done though, because you need also to shorten and modify the shot tube, which is removable on those guns. So I guess maybe it's just impossible to do. Or is it? Witness the USA 95 quasi-military rifle. Well, that's all for today, folks. This is Russ. There it is. Have a great day.